I want to make an argument for why the flow method of training is more effective than what is traditional. You hear a lot of people talk about make sure you get your zone 2 training in. Well, I get that there's value in that. It's developing your aerobic capacity, and more precisely what it's doing is developing your capacity to burn fat, which is at low intensity. This is basically a recreation of what a typical VO2 max test might look like in the report. The blue line representing heart rate, the green line representing oxygen uptake, and the red line representing carbon dioxide production. So the greater CO2 levels that you see is an indication of greater carbohydrate utilization. And what I've done is I've kind of thrown heart rate into the fray here. So 130 beats, 140, 50, 60, 170, and 175 beats per minute from the beginning to the end of the test. And I've also indicated that fat utilization commensurate with heart rate, and this is not precise, but just to make my argument, 60% at 150 beats per minute, 50 at 160, 30 at 170. I pushed that up because now we're starting to get into more anaerobic metabolism, and clearly here at 175 beats per minute, zero contribution from fat because we've just crossed over. We're 100% into our sugar stores now.
Your heart rate is quite high.
In a traditional training bout, in most locales, it's usually an out and back kind of configuration. You're going out for a particular run, you're going to turn around and come back, and or maybe you're looping a particular area. But what I'm suggesting you do is you start out with about 4 minutes worth of skill development, okay? About 10 minutes worth of skill development. 4 of which is tuning the instrument, making sure that your cadence is on point, your ground contact's correct, introducing some motor skill development, which is introducing speed minus error. Collectively, this is you getting ready for your run, about 10 minutes contribution. Then in this scenario, 10 minutes right out of the gate dedicated to aerobic conditioning. And based on what we were looking at there, I'd say about 155 is a good number. And then we're going to go up a little bit. Let's take this up to about 165. Now we're starting to get into the lactate. Not severely. We're still able to process that lactate pretty effectively, but it's not nearly as aerobic as it was. Then we drop back down for about 20 minutes. Maybe this time, longer duration, we're going to be at 150 beats per minute. And then we're going to bust some eggs. We're going to jump up to a pretty intense effort for about a minute.
Fucking kidding me? Fuck you.
Cardio, getting your heart involved in the work, and the musculature and biomechanics are really coming into play here. And then you're going to bring it back down to, say, probably about 130 beats per minute in recovery. When you tag that, you go right back in the game, punch it back up to about 155, get that aerobic influence again. And then after that's done, we're going to jump up into that lactate again, this time with a little bit more gusto. Let's say closer to 170 beats per minute. It should be sustainable for about 8 minutes. And then we're going to drop back down into that 150, 155 range, get some aerobic influence, flush out some of that lactate. And then before the finish line, we're going to put a 2-minute effort where we're going to go after it again, this time at about 170 beats per minute, and we finish the run. So what we got here is about a 75-minute workout, and of that 75 minutes that we did, the dominant influence was aerobic metabolism. 66% of the time you were aerobic, 20% anaerobic, and we offered up the skill work. This is far and away more effective in a training bout than just steady state, low intensity, for weeks on end, hoping that one day you're prepared to get into more anaerobic metabolism, and that separation from one energy system to the next is just really not nearly as effective as this. Flow training, folks. You'll find it at Training the Dark Side.